This week we've been focusing on introducing dilemmas into the classroom. This obviously holds many challenges for teachers, and the group have been considering these challenges, and I'd like to just reflect for a few minutes on the outcomes of those discussions. Initially the forum produced some interesting key words relating to the use of a dilemma in the classroom. Knowledge formed a very large part of those key words, being common across many participants. But other words such as curiosity, exciting, stimulating and engaging science also were reported. So the key issue is how we balance that subject knowledge with the pedagogic implications of teaching dilemmas in the classroom. The recent webinar with opportunities for participants to give their ideas on the challenges faced when introducing dilemmas in the classroom reinforced these issues, and subject knowledge took up a large part of the seminar. Teachers are clearly worried and concerned about having a depth of subject knowledge to cope with the challenges and the questions that pupils may bring up when the discussion around the dilemma arises in the classroom. This is an understandable area of concern, but I think it's important to keep in mind that the teacher has multiple roles within the classroom and is not just there to impart knowledge. Clearly this is not a major aim of the engaged teaching strategies. It's much more about active participation and the group work and the discussion and the collaboration that comes from the pupils. And that leads me to say that really the teacher's role there is to facilitate that type of activity, not to be a provider of information. It would be inconceivable, though, to go into a lesson without preparing around the knowledge that you would need for teaching a particular topic. So it's clearly important that is carried out before the lesson takes place. I think what I'm trying to say is that no teacher could anticipate all the questions that the pupils will bring up and all the avenues that they may go down. What's important is that the teacher has a structure to cope and techniques and strategies to cope with guiding the pupils in achieving the final outcome of the lesson which they've planned and intended. There were some good ideas that came from the seminar in terms of what we might do in Engage to help teachers. Additional materials, collaboration on the portal where teachers may upload their own additional further materials or links to websites that give additional subject knowledge. Key fact sheets could be a good idea just to highlight the important science concepts that might be behind one of the topics. These are all things that can be looked into and be carried out by the engaged team. This relevance to the pupils is very important. Pupils need to have some sense of ownership. I'd like to think just a little bit about the role of the teacher in introducing a dilemma in the classroom. We asked the group for what they thought the challenges were. And I think this needs to be balanced between the traditional role of leading the lesson and the more enlightened role, perhaps, of facilitating effective group discussion within the lesson. Discussions don't happen without structure and preparation, though. Pupils will need to have that structure, that framework. This could be a series of prompt questions, for example, that the teacher could draw on, that they could use. It could be a series of key cards of information that the pupils are presented with. Alexandra brought up a very interesting example of electric cars, a discussion around the dilemma of should we introduce electric cars into a city, into a town. The obvious response from the pupils will be that that's a good thing. But there are many more implications to look at, and it's unravelling and revealing that science behind there that's important in terms of engage. Dilemma has to be authentic, it has to be a real dilemma, but it has to be relevant to the pupils, and it has to be structured at the right level for the pupils. The electric car example could stray much more into the decline of fossil fuels. They could look at the effects of hydrogen fuel cells. All these would take you down different avenues of subject knowledge, and it's important that the teacher understands and has a clear outcome and objective for the lesson set to allow them to steer the pupils towards, whilst obviously at the same time allowing the pupils to follow their own ideas of their discussion. They need to feel that they are informed, so that will involve the teacher in terms of the preparation of the material that they produce, that they are allowed to express their opinion. But the important key role here for the teacher is that that opinion then has to be transformed by the use of evidence. It has to be backed up with evidence, and that's where the key issue is, of linking the science to that discussion around the dilemma. And that's the crucial role for the teacher in that situation. I think one of the areas that's interesting is how much the teacher collaborates and changes the materials that are provided. I think it's okay to adopt. It will be great when teachers move on to adapt and change materials to suit their own teaching styles. But in the first place, teachers have to be confident to try the new ideas. There's a lot of interesting work that's gone on in terms of more inexperienced teachers who perhaps lack confidence in new ideas, wanting to stand by the strength of produced materials and structure and frameworks. I'd really like people to think about it at the end of these first weeks of the course. Think about what challenges they think they may face within introducing dilemmas in the classroom. I'd like you to think very carefully about this issue of subject knowledge. Is that the key issue, or is it more about how you will structure the classroom and allow the pupils to follow their ideas, and then to have the confidence to bring them back together and guide them towards the outcomes of the lesson and the intended objectives of the lesson. So it's this, if you like, our own dilemma between, or a dichotomy between achieving or being driven by the subject knowledge that we want to enable the pupils to acquire, as opposed to the role that we will have in the classroom of facilitating effective and engaging discussion around the dilemma. It's an interesting and a stimulating opportunity for teachers and pupils in the classroom.